Many thanks for staying within your interest. Our second segment on the Uniform Civil Code. And if Uttarakhand was the first test case, is Gujarat now a policy expansion or is it a political expansion of the UCC? Gujarat State Assembly has passed the Uniform Civil Code Bill, making it the latest state to move towards a single legal framework for marriage, divorce, inheritance and live-in relationships. The state has become the second in the country after Uttarakhand to bring in a common set of rules for personal matters. Now, the new law will apply to all citizens of Gujarat, even those living outside the state. Under the bill, marriages must be registered within 60 days. Out-of-court divorces will not be valid and can attract punishment. Live-in relationships have been brought under a legal framework with compulsory registration. Bigamy is now banned, and forced or fraudulent marriages can lead up to 7 years in jail as well. Sons and daughters will have equal rights in inheritance across all communities. Women have been given an unconditional right to remarry. Religious customs can continue, but their legal effect will now be governed by this common code. Scheduled tribes, however, have been fully exempted to protect their customs and traditions from the ambit of this new law. The passage of the bill has triggered a sharp political storm, needless to say. The Congress, the Aam Aadmi Party and several minority groups strongly opposed it, both inside the assembly and on the streets. It took about 6 hours of debate before Gujarat Assembly passed this, and they called the bill rushed and politically motivated, timed just ahead of the 2027 elections. Critics said nearly 1 lakh objections were ignored. The consultation process lacked transparency, and the bill could violate fundamental rights and personal privacy, especially because of the mandatory registration of live-in relationships. Some opposition leaders described it as anti-minority and claimed it mainly targets Muslim personal laws. The government has pushed, saying the bill is completely religion neutral, promotes gender justice and follows the spirit of the Supreme Court observations and Article 44 of the Constitution. The Chief Minister also cited verses from the Rig Veda before tabling this in the Assembly. And at the national level, there is still no uniform civil code or fixed timeline from the centre on it. The Constitution directs the state to work towards the uniform civil code, but it is not enforceable by courts. The centre has supported the idea in principle, and now states are taking the lead. Gujarat and Uttarakhand have moved first, both BJP-ruled states, and the subject falls under the concurrent list, which allows both centre and states to act. Let's talk about this a little bit. The big questions that we're trying to decode. With states passing their own versions of the UCC, is India heading towards a uniform code or a fragmented legal system where rights change at state borders? Does mandatory registration of live-in relationships protect adults or unnecessarily intrude into their private lives? Is this bill, the UCC law, a step towards the national goal of one law for all, or is it mainly a political move ahead of elections? With us on the broadcast, CA Naresh Kela, spokesperson BJP Gujarat and convener Gujarat BJP CSL, and with us Praful Bhardwaj, advocate Supreme Court, also on the broadcast. Let's get the snowball rolling here, Mr. Naresh. You know, you've heard the opposition raising all those problems. They're saying there's going to be intrusion in personal private lives. Many opposition leaders also saying that this is clearly an intrusive law into the minority rights. What do you have to say about that?
First of all, I would like to thank you, TV9 Network, for inviting me on this debate on a topic which is of very importance nationally as well. See, when we discuss about the opposition's view, we are very much clear that it is nothing against any community or any religion. It is the government's attempt to actually treat all its citizens equally under the law, in the eyes of law. So I think
the opposition is questioning the timing of the law right ahead of the 2027 elections.
No, for doing anything good, I think the issue of timing is not relevant. We are just here to serve the purpose of the citizens' rights, and more particularly the rights of the women when we see we have different personal laws for issues like marriages, divorces, adoption, inheritance, and this has caused a lot of legal injustice, particularly to one major segment of the society, which is female. So to protect their rights and to ensure that all the citizens are treated equally in the eyes of law, I think this is a very welcome move by the government of Gujarat. And we don't think there is anything against any community or any religion per se.
Yeah, but you see, I mean, the proof of the pudding and the definition of success here will not just be in the legal uniformity of the law being passed, it's going to be social acceptance as well. So we'll have to wait and find out, whether this is socially acceptable or not. We've got a case scenario from Uttarakhand, and now we've got Gujarat that's added to that list. But let me bring in our other panelists as well. Let's ask them the same question. Mr. Bardwaj, do you concur with what, Mr. Kella here is talking about? He's saying it's for the women here. Women are granted the right to remarry without any conditions under the bill. A key provision of the Uniform Civil Code ensures equal inheritance rights for sons and daughters. So there is gender equity as well across all religions, aimed at promoting gender equality, economic security, especially for women. What's wrong with that? I mean, it sounds great on paper.
See, the idea of Uniform Civil Code is a great idea on paper. It is under DPSPs, that is Directive Principles. Yeah. But it encroaches upon the fundamental rights, which are the mandatory rights provided in the Constitution. So the idea of Constitution itself says that the right to religion, the right to community, the right to marriage, these are fundamental rights, and they cannot be encroached upon in a manner in the name of Uniform Civil Code or something like that. The bill is very problematic at several ends. That first of all, it encroaches upon the practice of religion. Secondly, it encroaches upon Article 21, that is right to privacy, includes the autonomy to marriage, live-in relationships, and all sorts of.
Advocate Bardwaj, wait. From what I understood, Chief Minister Bhupinder Bhai Patel made it quite clear that there is going to be no curbs, no restrictions on the kind of religious practices that happen. If, let's say, a custom allows you to marry your own cousin, that's going to continue. It's just that now personal laws are going to be governed by this big overarching ambit called the Uniform Civil Code. That's going to help women, is what the BJP says.
See, there are already laws in place with respect to bigamy, with respect to mock marriages, and all these laws are there. Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, there is a law. There is a uniform law throughout the country. There's a central legislation in place. There are several laws for gender justice. There's Article 14 for equality, Article 16, Article 15. So, in a way, the law also creates a conundrum between these laws. It's a state law. It is under concurrent list, that is okay. It's a state law, but there are already laws in place which are central laws. So it has to be tested on a legal scrutiny as well. The law in Uttarakhand is already under challenge before the High Court of Uttarakhand. So that is also one concern, whether this impinges upon the fundamental rights or not.
4 of the Constitution, which is the directive principles that you spoke about, they clearly mention and state that a state can endeavor to safeguard itself a uniform civil code. I'm going to come back to you, Advocate. Let's go back to Mr. Kella. Mr. Kella, opposition voices, and of course you can respond to what the Advocate here is talking about. Opposition voices argue that this is as much about politics as it is for policy. I pointed out that 2027 is right around the corner. How do you respond to the charge, particularly coming from the opposition, that this is to curb the Muslim personal laws and that UCC is about consolidating a vote base, that too so close to the elections?
I would like to make certain things very clear. When the learned advocate colleague, they mentioned that it is infringing the right to religion. I think he is totally misled with this view, because the act nowhere prevents you or prohibits you from practicing your own religious practices and your belief. It is only in the civil matters which create legal disputes that government is trying to ensure that the citizens of the state are treated equally. And second thing, when we speak about the opposition, we have elections in the country almost every year. So if any reform,
okay, fine. I agree with you on that front. The opposition is also saying that none of the recommendations were heard. There was no transparency in looking at those recommendations. So many of those recommendations were just quickly junked, thrown out the window altogether.
See, when we discuss about the Uniform Civil Code, I think we have set precedent in the Uttarakhand as well, and we have been having a very long-term debate on this. That this is not a new concept or new idea that has been brought. It is, as you rightly said, it has already been narrated very aptly in Article 44 of the Constitution.
Yeah, you're right. We've spoken about that, yeah. Mr. Keller. So, would you say that the Uniform Civil Code has been completely and socially accepted in the state of Uttarakhand?
See,
people have fought for various cases.
I'll tell you with one example. Yeah. If somebody is performing any activity which is infringing the actual rights, basic rights, like we have seen in the case of the Sahbano, where she had to fight to Supreme Court to get her basic justice.
Yeah.
See, so we cannot override individuals' right to get justice just because some religion or some.
No, you're absolutely right. That's what the opposition is saying. That there are already various legal remedies at their disposal. They can make use of any of those legal remedies as well. Why a uniform civil code only for that? Okay, I'll ask you another question. Mr. Keller, you know, addressing concerns about state overreach. You see, the bill mandates registration of marriages, divorces, even live-in relationships. Now, that can become quite problematic. And that's one of those, the lumps in the throat when you're talking about Uttarakhand, how people have not been able to socially, really swallow this law in. How do you address concerns of state overreach into personal lives? Sometimes it's the kitchen, sometimes it's the personal lives. I mean, these are important questions that need answers.
No, this is clear misconception when you are saying that state is interfering in the personal lives. It is the duty of the state to ensure that no citizen is exploited for the want of any regulation. Like in the cases of live-in relationships, also we have seen numerous cases where due to no regulation or no preventive measures available to the specifically to women, we have seen number of cases where they have been exploited, they have been left, or they have been.
No, that's great, Mr. Keller. There is a safeguard in place. That you said the same thing in your first answer as well. Okay, let me give you a hypothetical situation. There is an interfaith couple that have now decided to live in together. So they have to get themselves registered. One of those process also involves putting it up on a notice board for the entire world to know that, you've got an interfaith couple that are living together without marriage in this particular place. In this particular place, there's an address. And then you've got some fringe groups, you've got fringe elements. What kind of safeguards do you have for that? People can be all sorts of questions are raised. People come in, barge into their homes. What kind of safeguards, safe rails do you have for cases like those?
There is already safeguard mechanism in place for any person who is trying to infringe personally into the lives of any other person. See, it is not the state that is infringing in the lives of anybody. State is giving the preventive measures. When there is injustice meted out to any citizen, then state's role is to give the preventive measures, to give them remedial measures in case where the cases like the live-in relationships, also the women particularly, they don't have any remedial measures when there is any dispute or any crime or anything that has happened against the female more particularly.
Okay. Advocate Bhardwaj, I'm going to give you the final say here, running out of time. Supporters argue that this is aligned with Article 44, something that, Mr. Keller has already spoken about the constitutional vision that has been allowed by the Constitution for states to endeavor a uniform civil code for themselves. Do you oppose the idea of uniform civil code itself, or is it the timing, the social acceptance, the implementation of it? What's the actual problem here per se? We've heard you say that there are other legal remedies, but what's really wrong with this? When there is, what is that red line that you see is actually being crossed with this UCC?
See, you rightly said about the live-in relationships. It says that it will, if you do not register a live-in relationship, you will be punished for 3 months of imprisonment and 10,000 rupees of fine. So see how problematic this is. Relationship is a very subjective thing, very personal thing. So we are saying that you cannot over-regulate. State cannot over-regulate to that aspect. It is coming into your relationships, and it is a live-in relationship. They do not want to formalize it. They even themselves do not recognize it. So understand this thing, that it is protected under Article 21. Uniform Civil Code is under DPSP. So DPSPs are directive measures, but fundamental right protection is
directive measures mean it can exist. Is there anything good in the UCC that you'd like to point out or highlight? I think there are certain aspects that are really needed in today's time as well.
UCC as a good when it comes to property and all those aspects. UCC is good as a concept. It comes to inheritance and all those aspects. But there are certain aspects in the Act which are problematic, which are impinging upon the fundamental right. That is my say.
All right. Many thanks, gentlemen, for taking out the time and helping us out with your insightful inputs on the Uniform Civil Code. Gujarat, add that state to the list after Uttarakhand that has delivered on the Uniform Civil Code, because this is more than a legal reform. Many thanks, Advocate Bhardwaj. Many thanks, Mr. Keller, for taking out the time. This is more than a legal reform. It's a defining test of how India balances equality with our multicultural diversity, because the real challenge isn't passing the law itself. It's making it work. It's making sure that it's socially acceptable without breaking the social fabric, the unity and diversity that we stand for. Some food for thought. That's all the time we have for you in this edition of In Your Interest. We're going to catch you again tomorrow. Many thanks for watching.
Volkswagen. पढ़ता है, खेलता है, झूलता उछलता है, दौड़ता कभी कभी दौड़ कराता है, आगे आगे बढ़ता है इंडिया, अमूल दूध पीता है इंडिया.
At Tata Motors Commercial Vehicles, truck cabin safety begins at the design stage. We design cabins that preserve driver survival space and meet the gold standard of truck cabin safety, ECE R29.03. But we didn't stop at simulations. We tested for reality. This is real safety, delivered at the moment of impact. Tata Motors Commercial Vehicles, designing, testing and leading the future of trucking with safety at its core.
सबसे पहले तो ये बता दूं कि मेरे साथ मेरे सहयोगी हमारे स्पोर्ट्स एडिटर बैठे हुए हैं. शिवेंद्र के साथ काम करने का, स्पोर्ट्स के संदर्भ में बारीकियों को समझने का एक बड़ा अनुभव हमारा रहा है, और उन्होंने कहा कि ये दोनों आ रहे हैं तो कमाल हो जाएगा. फिर तो ये अक्सर और अक्षर वाला क्या मसला है वो समझाइए पहले.
नहीं, मतलब प्रिंसिपल ने गलती कर दी. मैं अंडर 19 में अंडर 19 में जब ऑस्ट्रेलिया में वर्ल्ड कप था अंडर 19 का, और उसके लिए मैं सिलेक्ट हुआ था, तो तब मेरे पास पासपोर्ट नहीं था. तो इमरजेंसी में डैड को बोला मेरे को पासपोर्ट करवाना है, एंड क्योंकि वीज़ा के लिए अप्लाई करना है. उसके बाद डैड गए प्रिंसिपल के पास लिविंग सर्टिफिकेट और वो लेने, तो उन्होंने लिविंग सर्टिफिकेट में एक SHR की जगह AXAR कर दिया. तो वो लेके वो पासपोर्ट में चले गए. पासपोर्ट में भी AXAR हो गया, फिर पासपोर्ट बन गया. फिर मैं उसके बाद नेक्स्ट ईयर इंडिया भी खेल गया. मैंने बोला ये एक्स फैक्टर सही लग रहा है, तो फिर वो रहने दिया. तो वो बात हुई थी.
अच्छा अर्शदीप, अभी हम लोग बात करेंगे धीरे धीरे T20 वर्ल्ड कप की जीत पर भी, लेकिन आपके पिता भी क्रिकेट खेलते हैं, कॉर्पोरेट कप वगैरह खेलते हैं. मैं कहीं सुन रहा था आपको कि अब जो सलाहें बहुत मिलती हैं, मतलब मैच खत्म हुआ नहीं कि फोन आया और अब उसमें पिताजी तो सलाह देते ही देते हैं, मदर भी बताती हैं। ये एक्सपीरियंस कैसा है बहन और मदर से जो आपको ये सलाह मिलती है, जरा बताइए इसके बारे में।
फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल तो गुड आफ्टरनून सबको एंड थैंक यू सो मच, इतना सपोर्ट किया आप लोगों ने हमें एंड सेलिब्रेट किया हम सबके साथ। एंड आपके क्वेश्चन पे आता हूँ, इंडिया में सभी लोग ही कोचिंग देते हैं एंड वो स्टार्ट हमेशा घर से ही होती है और मेरा घर भी सेम ही है, अक्षर भाई घर पे भी सेम होता होगा। हो सकता है कि आपके भी बच्चे खेलते होंगे तो उनको आप भी कोचिंग देते होगे, तो घर से कोचिंग स्टार्ट होती है, फिर वो धीरे धीरे प्रोफेशनल शुरू हो जाता है काम। तो पहले पापा तो ठीक है, वो तो खेलते थे तो बताते हैं, तो मम्मी और बहन भी ये बोलती हैं कि यॉर्कर पे छक्का नहीं लग सकता है। तो जब भी उन्हें लगता है कि मेरे को रन ज़्यादा पड़ रहे हैं तो कहते हैं कि बस जाके सीधा यॉर्कर फेंक दे, ईजी काम है। तो मैंने वही बताया उनको कि मशीन तो नहीं लगी है अंदर कि ऐसे क्लिक किया बटन और यॉर्कर गिर गई, लेकिन ठीक है वो हमारा अच्छा चाहते हैं तो मज़ा आता है।